Tell us a bit more about your background, how you started on Fiverr. I see you've been a seller since 2016, I think.
Yes.
So tell us a bit more how you found out about Fiverr, how much time you got, how much time it took until you got your first order and stuff, and how you moved up the ranks. A bit more
Okay.
about the timeline and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely, sure. So, I've been in radio for 20 years. Um,
Really?
yeah, and mostly when I was single. So I'm married now, got kids, but
How
when
many
I was
kids?
single, I would work radio stations all across the country. I eventually got into morning drive, which is supposedly the most money, and it's brutal because I think the most brutal part about it is just getting up. If you're a person that has no problem getting up in the middle of the night, then more power. I'm not one of those, but I mean, I would do that for years. I would get up at 4:30 in the morning, get to the radio station by 5:30, start a morning show from 6 to 10 or so, and then do production work, stay at the radio station for a little bit, then go home and then sleep.
Yeah.
I did that for 20 years, and
Damn.
and there was a couple of things
Wow.
I learned about myself during that time. What I learned about myself is that I can't stand bosses. I am my own person. I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I like doing things my way. I don't like somebody telling me what to do. I don't like somebody and some people are built that way, and that was me. So that was always kind of, and the problem was is that I think when I was single, I wanted to have this awesome radio show, and I wanted to be able to to make a big name for myself in some market. But the problem, I think the major problem with that, with me, with that was that it didn't pay much at all. I mean, the pay was just terrible. So I had, then I eventually got married, and I was still in radio while I was married. Um,
Yeah.
and
What year is
and
this,
once you have
approximately?
a family and you have a spouse, it just kind of dawns on you, if that little paycheck is not cutting it, unless my wife was interested in staying home and being with the kids and homeschooling, and that's cool. Um, but I think with me, I eventually got to the point where this isn't cutting it anymore, and I have to find something. And I
Mhm.
meddled with a lot of stuff like network marketing and a whole bunch of junk, and it just wasn't working at all. But I was really, I had this burning desire to make money and to and to do something. And I was at this crossroads of my life, and I had to do something. So I finally got to a radio station where there was a guy that was working as kind of an IT person for the radio station. He did a show too, and he just kind of fill in guy to do whatever, and he just kind of brought up out of the blue how he was able to make money on these platforms. And there's a couple of voiceover platforms. There's Upwork, there's Voice Bunny, there's Fiverr, and he told me that
So he was
he was
also a
able to.
voiceover
What's that?
seller. He was also a voiceover seller.
Yeah, well,
This
yeah,
guy.
he was a
Yeah.
voiceover seller on Fiverr. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but he was just he did it. He just did a little bit. I mean, he told me that it was a point in time where he lost his job and he was able to do this from home and make a couple of grand. And it was just a side project. But that really sparked my interest, and I started to really look into it. I started to really dive into it. And I'm at this radio station. I'm not making any money. We're just broke as a joke. We're living pay. It's that's the thing, as radio professionals say, that
Paycheck to paycheck.
radio broadcasting is a paycheck to paycheck business. It's a paycheck to paycheck industry. And that's just, I can't and I got to the point, I said, I can't live like this anymore. I got to do something. So what I
Yeah.
did is I got on Fiverr. I was terrible. Level one, I had a couple of impersonations I did and some funny, goofy stuff. Nothing really, and I didn't know what I was doing. But then I just immersed myself in Facebook groups, other people who are pros. How are they making money? How are they doing? And then I found out as much as I could about Fiverr on my own from other people. And also, I mean, when it came to being a voice actor, there's a lot of stuff I needed to learn. When I first started, I was terrible. I was absolutely awful. Um, and and I just learned to get better on my
Yeah.
own. And it's usually just from just I think there was two things that happened. It was just getting enough orders and having enough bad experience. Sometimes the bad experiences help
For
you.
sure. It's the
Better.
best learning experience,
Yeah.
And
usually.
sometimes it's not always the buyer's fault. It's the seller's fault. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Surprisingly
you've got to
enough.
yeah, you've got to perform at a certain level that they want. And so I spent a lot of time fine tuning my studio, how it's supposed to sound, my microphone. I've gone through about 3 or 4 different microphones. I actually had a construction guy come in here and make this kind of a soundproof studio situation that I have. That took some work, that took some money. It was all money I made on Fiverr. But I think the good thing about Fiverr is once you figure it out, once you learn to put up a decent gig, put up a decent thumbnail, give them some kind of a sample to look at, so they can look at you and check you out, and then be competitive and learn to be competitive and learn
Yeah,
to, and then actually finding a sample. I have the same sample for my, if you do a search for audio book, one word, you're going to find me. Okay. But that sample's
right.
been working a long time. And so I've kept it. I haven't changed it. I haven't
You
done
mean
nothing
the
to
gig
it.
image?
The image has been fairly new, but the audio, because I have an audio
Oh, the
sampler,
audio.
and
Mhm.
most voiceover people, they're going to want to hear an audio sample or a video or something.
Yeah.
So I have that, and that's been working consistently for a long, 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 long time. And so I think the big thing is finding your groove. So anyway, I joined Fiverr in 2016, and I was working at the radio, my local radio station during that time. Um, but then it got to the point where there was just like this major shift, um, where I was consistently doing Fiverr level 1, level 2. Then I made top rated seller. It was just like, wow. But what happened was I was kind of at a position where, okay, something has to give. I can't maintain this radio job anymore. And plus
Yep.
I got to the point, and it's always like kind of like this. A lot of people say that if you want to move out on your own with what you're doing, you should be making about 3 times as much as you were at your radio job, or your old job, your 9 to 5 job, before you make that transition as an entrepreneur. And I was hitting that. I was hitting that more often than not. And so I finally said, okay, it's time to cut the cord.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I left the professional job, and then I did this full time. The interesting thing is that, when you're looking at income, is that, you kind of compare it. I remember when I was working full time and then doing Fiverr on the side, I made a certain level of income, and you always think to yourself, boy, I really need this. And I don't know if it's probably an American thing, because Americans are all about, there's a whole segment of 9 to 5. You have to go to college to get your 9 to 5 job. You have to be there for so many years. You can retire at 65, you get your little pension and blah, 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 blah. Um, and that's kind of ingrained into the mindset. And that was a great mindset. My wife didn't want me to leave the job. And I finally cut the
Really?
cord. I said, that's it, we're done. And I just did it. Um, and then I found out that I make much more money alone doing what I'm doing, because I'm committed and I'm dedicated to it around the clock. And here's the other interesting thing. Maybe this isn't true for everybody, but there was a lot of stress at my workplace. There
Mhm.
was a lot of stress, a lot of stuff going on, getting up early in the morning, and then coming. I think what the biggest stress for me was, I'd be working. I'd try to catch a nap because I'd be up at 4 in the morning, right? And then I try to complete like a big project on Fiverr that I had coming up, that I had to do. And I was burning the candle at both ends, and that was affecting my marriage too. I think that was affecting family life. But just kind of moving to this transition, it's just like, once you get your schedule set of when you want to do it, and I don't mind. It's funny, because you end up really, if you really doing what you love to do, okay, you don't mind doing it
Yeah,
at any
yeah.
time. You don't mind
Around
doing it
the
at
clock.
night. You don't mind working on the weekends. You don't mind jumping in on a Sunday, okay,
Yep.
or in the middle of the night, or whenever, or early in the morning, so you can really kind of set your own schedule. And now it's just like, for a guy that had to get up at 4 in the morning every morning, I was getting up whenever I want. Okay. And
Yep.
then I have if I know what's coming, if I have a client that's going to call me in the morning, and there's a client that does call in the morning, I try to be mindful of that, and I deal with him. But for the most part, I know what's on my plate. I know what needs to get done, and that schedule is mine. And you find out another thing too, is that when you're your own boss, the worst boss in the world is you. That's what I think. I think they're the most demanding person because you put demands on yourself because you want to be successful. You want to achieve something. You want to get to the next level. You want more, and if you're built like an entrepreneur, okay, which is what people are on Fiverr, okay, you want more money. You want to grow. You want to do other things. You want to invest that money in your family. You want more time freedom, and the best way to have time freedom is to be in a situation where you control everything. And the boss doesn't, you're the boss. You're controlling things. Your boss ain't controlling things. You're in a 9-to-5 job. The boss is controlling everything. He sets your time. He sets your schedule. When you get there, when you leave, your performance. And, and if if he's a nice boss, great. If he's not, and I don't know with, radio, the bosses I've had have been total jerks. So, I've dealt with all kinds of people. So, in that environment, but that's kind of how things progress. But I think that the interesting thing is this one guy that was just kind of introduced me to Fiverr. And I've heard of Fiverr
Is he
before, but I
still
didn't
going
really
as a seller?
know about the seller aspect of it. I only knew about the buyer aspect of it. But that one guy changed everything. He really did. I don't think he realizes that, but and I still kind of contact him every now and then. But but it was just this one guy who showed me the website, and that was it. So
Is he still a seller on the site?
I don't think so. I'm way ahead of him. And the funny thing, that's the funny thing is that
It
he's
took his place.
not like
Took his
some,
place.
it's not like some huge, there's all kinds of people way ahead of me on Fiverr in the voiceover realm. But this guy's, I don't think he's even a level one. He just kind of did it on this, but he sparked my interest. But the thing is, all these events in my life just kind of, and I think the big thing is the angst of not being happy where I'm at. And I had to do something about it. And I was determined to do something about it. The funny thing is though, is that, that motivation to get out of where I was at and to move full time. I mean, I worked super, super hard to do that. You kind of lose now when you're kind of relaxing and you're enjoying yourself, you got to maintain that. You've got to
The
maintain
hunger,
that
you gotta
energy,
keep it.
man.
That's the most
Yep.
difficult part, I think.
Yep.
The most
Absolutely.
difficult part is when you're at the top and you gotta keep winning. They say that for the sports team as well. The difficult thing is not winning the championship. The difficult thing is to win it again. You may win it once, but the difficult thing is to win it back to back and win it. Have the hunger to win it twice.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I'm in Georgia in the United States, and the Georgia Bulldogs, the Georgia Bulldogs football team. We're big fans of them. They won back to back, and then the last time someone won it 3 times in a row, the national championship, right?
Yeah.
It was back in the 1930s, and I always kind of wondered about that. But you just can't. But trying to repeat that, there's so many factors involved, and it's so competitive. The competitiveness, you're not gonna be on top forever. You will eventually take a dip, no matter what anybody tells you online that's saying, "Hey, I've been successful on Fiverr and I'm making," I've funny because we have these Facebook groups that will have people that I've been into and will kind of advertise their earnings for the month. And sometimes people will show a great month, and then all of a sudden you don't hear from them in 3 months, and that's because they don't have great months. It goes up and down. It moves.
It's a wave. It's sort of like a wave that you got to ride into it.
Yeah. You have to eventually, I think, on Fiverr set a standard. It's like, hey, I'm no longer going to be doing this. If I'm going to be doing this project, it's going to be $50 at the top or $100 for this kind of project, and never go below that. So you kind of set yourself to the point where, hey, I'm a top rated seller. The average selling price has gone up. And I want to stay in the search results. That's always the key. Are you searchable? Are you, when you do a search on yourself, are you showing up on the top row, or on the front page at least? And how long are you there for? And that's always something that I'm mindful of as well. So,
I mean that those are great points actually. The more you stay on the first page, the more you can guarantee that you have a stable income, which is very important as a freelancer. I think in order to have that peace of mind that you have that stable income. I mean, once I got into top rated status as well, I felt like I was stable on the first page. I wasn't
Yeah.
pretty much moving from there a lot. So and then once you have that, it's pretty much stable orders coming in. It's crucially important.
Well, for me, it's been being on the front page has turned into trying to keep up with the work, being busy, which is good, which is what I need, which I need to have. But even with that, there's been times where I mean, I last 2 months have been off the charts. This month has
Really,
been a lot slower. I was dealing with probably about 5 or 6 audiobooks, which are big, long projects, which sometimes will take anywhere from 10 to 20 days to finish.
really,
We're talking about, I want an audiobook of. I had one guy, he wanted an audiobook of 10 hours of audio. That takes a long time. That takes a lot of
yeah,
editing. That takes a lot of recording. But I stayed busy. I had like I gave them what I did was larger orders is I kind of give them a ridiculous delivery date. 30 days, I think, is plenty of time to get whatever they have in place. But that allows me, when I have like a 30-day delivery, that allows me to balance all the other orders I'm dealing with. So I don't have a really hot deadline. But I like to try. I think now that I'm doing this full time, I like to try to get as many orders done as quickly as possible. And I think another part of it being successful on Fiverr is if you get this done in 24 hours or less, or the least amount of time, even for a big project, your stats are going to improve.
mm,
It's going to fire off. They're going to mark that order complete. They're going to give you a review. And if you are, and if you've signed up for, I don't know if it's, I think this applies just about everybody because Fiverr's making money on this. You get your money early.
yep.
Have you guys ever used it? Yeah, you get your money early. You're able to
If you
click on
pay a
that.
fee, I think.
If they marked it complete, if they've given a review, you're in good shape. But the quicker I'm able to get stuff done,
Mm,
the better for me as far as improving my status on Fiverr. There's not
yeah,
enough hours in the day to get
yeah,
everything
yeah,
done in 24 hours, but I
yeah,
try to get as many orders as I can done in 24 hours.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I try it too, 100%. But one little side note I like to make is that I am a bit mindful sometimes that I don't want to create some unrealistic expectations on future
right,
orders, because
right,
sometimes a buyer I may agree with the buyer for 4 days delivery and stuff, and I will have let's say some free time to finish it in a day or something. And if you do deliver in that 1 day delivery when you promised 4 or 5 days delivery, then once they come for a second order and you
yeah.
agree for
They
five or
expect that,
four
yeah,
days, yeah, they expect, why isn't it done in 1 day again? Whereas that was a one-time exception. You know what I mean?
right.
So sometimes I do get what you're saying. I do try to deliver as fast as possible as well, but I'm a bit mindful of creating unrealistic expectations on future
Right,
orders if
right.
the buyer is a repeat customer.
I would say I would agree with that, with what you just said. I think there is a caveat to that. I think if you have buyers that you have recognized that are basically paying the bills, that are the ones that are paying what you're asking for, and like there's this one guy in particular who has this YouTube channel, um, and and I mean he's paying me anywhere between $150 at the very low end till at least either 300 to 400, depending on how big the script is. Now with that, I know that, man, that's good money. That's stuff that's coming in. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that done as a turnover as possible. For me, it's been
Yep.
2 days because I can't get stuff done in 20, because sometimes he'll send me 3 orders, but he has like a 13-day window to get this done. But I try to get it done quickly because I know he likes that. I know that that's one of the things he's not saying, oh, take your time. He's like, yeah, I need this because, and it's also I think there are certain orders that that people want it done quickly, and others that
Yeah.
want, like an author who wants a book done narrated. 30-day window is kind of average. They're going to take their time. They like
Yeah.
taking their time with their book, especially ones that love their book and they love
Yeah.
re-editing it 3 or 4 times and adding to it and all
Mm,
this other stuff. But I
yep.
think when you have a buyer that You want something turned over quickly. I just know YouTube channels, that they want some, they want to get monetized on YouTube, and they want it turned around quickly because they want to make money. And the more scripts you have coming out, and the more things that get done quickly, the better they're going to monetize their stuff quickly. And
Yep.
it's just kind of that kind of game. And I think it's also kind of recognizing what the project is. And I think some people are just ridiculous. They just want stuff right away, and they
Mm,
want too much. And I've dealt with those, especially with audiobooks. Number one, their price is way too low, and I'm not doing it for that price. They want it done in, they want done 100,000 word book, which is 10 hours of audio, which takes a long time to do. And they want that done in 5 days. They're not getting that from me. They're going to get
yeah.
a 30-day, like everybody else, or 60-day, depending if it's a larger project, because I know the type of project. And some people they just want stuff done because they want stuff done. They don't have a rhyme or reason to it. So, but I think, like I said, I think there are some certain orders that are out there that, depending on what you get familiar with what you're doing, and you usually do a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again. And you know that what you can, and especially if you guys who've been on the platform a long enough time, and you get enough orders, you start getting 1,000 orders or more, right? You know what's coming in, you know what to expect, you know what kind of
Yeah.
order that it's going to be, and you know how long it's going to take you to get that done. If you're doing this full time, you don't
Yeah.
have to guess. I think when I first started out, I think the toughest part of Fiverr is starting out as a beginner, level one, level two. You make mistakes. For me, I got angry at buyers. I would get, I would go back and forth. Customer service would get involved. They dock me for not being nice. All right. I've become much more nicer since I started.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
You learn. You
And I'm
you learn.
generally not a nice person. So, right. So, that's something I had to really, really work on if I want to be successful at this.
Yeah.
But it just seems like when you're first starting out, you're just kind of in the dark. You're trying to figure stuff out, and then all of a sudden, stuff that really you get worked up about. I think I don't know if you guys have caught this about the new rating system that they came out with.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was
With
a
the
huge
success score and
backlash.
stuff.
There was a huge backlash on that, and they reversed course. They were talking about people that have got consistent 5-star reviews, and they brought it down to 4.9 or 4.8 for everybody. But there was a huge backlash for top-rated sellers or people that have been on this platform
Yeah.
a long
Yeah.
time that have worked their way up to get those 5-star
Yeah.
reviews.
Yeah.
And they were going to dock it because they wanted this new system that was kind of convoluted. And the one problem I had was that the people that were making the decision makers were not sellers themselves, so they don't know the process. They haven't been
Mm,
through this, and they're not top-rated sellers, right?
yeah.
So they're just kind of making decisions for everybody, and they don't know the consequences of those decisions.
For
Um,
sure. For sure.
but yeah, but anyway, I'm kind of going off on a rabbit trail here. But if you guys want to bring me in, you go right ahead, and if you have a question or whatnot.
I love the point when you said earlier about being polite. We made a podcast with Lambros yesterday, and we said to new sellers that you need to be polite, even if the client is not polite to you.
Right.
Don't be rude to them. Be polite. Be kind. And I love the way you said it, because we are aligned on the same page. Like we know what we're talking about.
Well, at one point in time too, I think I would do things like this. If I knew I was going to cancel an order, okay, and it wasn't going well, I still try to be polite with that buyer, because the reason is because you never know, because Fiverr is very aware of that. Fiverr wants the smooth transition. So there's a set of skills that you have to develop. If my wife is actually brilliant. I've actually gone to her, and she's not related with Fiverr, but she's been in customer service before, and she just she knows how to talk to people you know who are unreasonable. They're on the phone type of thing, and she's worked in that environment before, and she thrives in it. And she knows how to turn it
Access for
around.
you.
What's that?
She writes the messages for you. You mean if there's an
Not
unreasonable
necessarily.
buyer?
She has before on certain things. If I've ever run into a client that's extraordinarily over the top,
Unreasonable. Yeah.
they're going to mess with. And the other thing too is, I think with this, there's a level of fatigue involved. If you're working, and there's been times where, hey man, I worked late last night. I got up because I got to get this project done, and I got other stuff on my plate, and things get busy. And and if you're a freelancer, you have other things going on besides Fiverr, right? So you're trying to balance all that. And then out of the blue, somebody just kind of says something that's, that messages you or wants a ridiculous revision, and they're
Yeah.
not giving you anything to work with. You immediately knee jerk get upset with them. And I've got and I still fall into that every now and then. Most times I don't. I have a certain way of handling them to get them off my plate and to successfully, and I think sometimes, this idea that, a lot of people say, well, I charge for a revision or I charge for a change. That's true. More true, I think, in the voiceover category that I've experienced. I don't know if that's the case, Ben, for you guys, where we try to charge at least maybe $10, $20 if there's going to be a revision or a change. But I think I've gotten to the point, if it's a small enough order or it's a manageable enough order and it's not going to take me a ton of time and they want a small change, I'm going to go ahead and give that to them, because in real life, not Fiverr life, real life, they want you the order done as soon as possible. They want you to stop things. I have a client that is not part of Fiverr. That is he is a political consultant, and we put together political ads all the time. I voice ads for TV, for radio, and he wants that immediately. He wants that because he has a deadline himself to get done. And so I will stop everything to get him done. And I will work with him for revisions and changes, which is kind of the part of he's always kind of a third person. And so that's kind of real life. So for me, I think I take my ego down a bit. If it's a change that's reasonable, that ain't going to, I don't need to charge nothing. Let's get this done. Let's get this off the plate. Let's get my review. Let's get this marked complete, and everybody's happy. But I think sometimes, especially when you're moving up the ranks, you get upset about things that don't matter. And that's one of the things that people like, no, I'm going to charge this. I have to charge what I'm charging. And I don't know if you've ever run into industry professionals in your niche, but voiceover is just it's just a little bit ridiculous. They're all Fiverr haters. They all hate Fiverr. They all believe that you need to do it this certain way. As far as get your business, you should never get it online. And, but I think what's happened, though, is that the landscape has changed, where there is a point in time where we didn't have freelance platforms like this and others, okay, like Fiverr and others, they were making all the money. Okay. They were making all the money. They're getting all the business. Okay. Because as professionals, then all of a sudden, a platform like this shows up, and all of a sudden you don't have to drop $20,000 or $30,000 to start a studio. You don't have to go through all this training, or you don't have to connect with, certain people, or you need to rub shoulders with people. And all of a sudden you're able to make money on a platform like Fiverr. That's a threat to them. That's why they don't like Fiverr. That's a threat. But I mean, industry professionals, but the problem is that they have a whole bunch of set of rules of how you should price what you're pricing, and demand a certain level of pay. And depending on who the client is, that could be unreasonable. Now, if it's a big company, right? If it's a big Fortune 500 company that has oodles of money and has a big budget, it should be no problem to ask them a certain level. If it's a mom and pop business, if it's a guy that's running a plumbing business or a carpentry business, and he wants a commercial done, or he wants a voiceover done, he wants a project done, or what have you, they're going to have an entirely different budget. And this idea that you have to maintain a certain price for everybody, no matter what, and be inflexible. But there's a lot of bad advice, and I've seen people on Fiverr that have graduated from their industry, okay, and then they decide to say, hey, I'm going to go on Fiverr. Well, I'm going to charge this, and I'm going to charge it starting out. I've seen maybe you
like
guys
$500 or something.
Yeah, you'll have, hey, for $200, starting at $300, I'll do this. And then you see that gig. There's no orders on it. There's no reviews. It's been up there forever, and they're on the 15th page. They're not going anywhere because they don't understand the platform. And that's the big thing for me, is that the more you understand the platform, and how the platform works and how the platform is going to be able to bend to your will, the better you're going to do in the end. And then you can increase the prices. If you become like one of these people that is just on demand, that are on the front page all the time, you can slowly increase those prices. But I still think that you have to be very, very aware of what prices are set on the front page with other people that are competing with you. If your price is way out there, okay, and nobody's flocking to you,
Yeah.
you're eventually going to be, you're not going to be on that front page for very long. It's going to be aware of that too. But I just think as a general rule, if, when I'm busy, when I'm slammed, prices go up, I also turn down a lot of orders. When
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
get slow,
It's normal. It's very
I'm
normal.
able to just kind of negotiate a little bit, and I'm comfortable negotiating to some certain extent with
Yeah.
prices.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
It's very normal in terms of business to go over these fluctuations and these waves of demand and act accordingly. Um, I think both on Fiverr and offline as well. And in terms of your point of unreasonable buyers, we have a bunch of them. Nicolas, I think you can go on a bit about
Yeah.
unreasonable buyers on Fiverr.
I want to add to your point that you said earlier, when with the extra charges and stuff. So I literally had a buyer today with a $50 order, right? And he asked for something extra, and because I do like art and design stuff, if it's a big change, then I would charge. But it was like a small change, and I knew I could do it in like 15 minutes. And I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm gonna charge extra, because for the viewers watching, right? If you're starting on Fiverr, if you're not very established on Fiverr, the one 5-star review is worth more than the extra $20 you're gonna get on the extra charge, right? And the clients value this as well, because they can understand that, okay, this guy's not charging me extra, so I'm gonna continue work with him.
right,
Probably. So
right.
yeah,
They're gonna be much more appreciated, I think.
yeah. The review is worth more than the 10 extra dollars, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And the other part of it too is that what you got to keep in mind is that I want to turn these one-time buyers into repeat buyers. That's the
Yeah,
name of
yeah.
the game on Fiverr.
Name of
That's
the
how you
game.
win on Fiverr, is turning one-time buyers or first-time buyers into repeat buyers. And then it becomes automatic, because I think there's a certain types of buyers. There's a buyer that says, all right, I want some kind of service on Fiverr. I'm going to just look around, and those people. Hey, can you tell me a price on this? And they're looking at you. They're looking at 6 other people. Maybe you'll be the one. Maybe you won't. But you want to turn that person that's just kind of looking and browsing, into somebody like, hey, this guy really cares about what I'm doing. So the next time he's on Fiverr, he's not going to kind of browse and look around at all these gigs. He's going to just say, hey, Stauff, I remember the experience. It was easy. We got through it. It was a pleasant experience. And I want to do it again. So it becomes automatic. And that's the kind is that, hey man, all of a sudden your order's there. They don't have to ask you. They don't have to message you first and ask you about how much you're going to charge for that. They just order.
Yep, yep, yep,
And
yep.
you want that automatic type of buyer. And especially if the buyer that has a lot of work, you're in very good shape. And if you can score with those types of people. So
Exactly,
Oh yeah,
exactly.
that's great. Yeah, that's great.
it's
So
interesting. You said $50 or $60 an order. I found what I found interesting is that what kind of buyer do you want to be? I mean, what kind of seller do you want to
And
be
you
on
wanna be.
Fiverr? Do you want to be the seller that just has these huge orders, that they're nice big fat orders, and they're big and that's great? Or do you want to be the person that gets
Volume.
slammed with $50 orders that take you no minute more than 5 to 10 minutes to do, because you're a pro in what you're doing, okay? And I think I talked to one lady in particular that really kind of honed in on her voicemail gig. It's companies that want voicemail. She's
Right.
got 40 orders in queue, and they're anywhere between $50 and maybe 70. But she's bringing in $11,000 a month. you know, and it takes her no time to do these, but she's got a lot of work to do, but it's just easy. It's quick. It's turnaround stuff. That's kind of like to me, that right there is much more important than getting, oh, I got 3 $200 orders today and I'm busy and I got $600 today and da 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 da, and I get these done, and you know, who knows how long it'll take me, but you know, look what's in my queue. But I mean, I think I envy I'd rather be, to be honest with you, I'd rather be the guy that's just flooded with orders that are in a certain range, and I'm able. The big part of it is I'm able to turn it over quickly, because they're not complicated orders, they're not huge orders. They're things that I can do that don't require a ton of brain power, I guess, on my end. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you can choose the workload as well. So there's no negative to this.
Right.
Exactly.
I've always. It's funny because, you know, choosing the workload. I was at one point in time I was into training on Fiverr, and I just kind of there's just too many moving parts for me, and I just didn't have the time to do it, and I just stopped the training. But I was working with one woman in particular that, you know, that was retired. She did Fiverr part-time, and you can, you know, like you said, you can choose how much you want to do. She just, you know, and she was very much, she wanted her freedom. She wanted to travel with her husband to another part of the country during the summertime and do different things and whatnot, and just kind of live that life and just be able to do this on the side. And she was definitely able to do that. But at the same time, she was able to you know, to start. I mean, that's what I like about Fiverr, is the flexibility. You can live that way. Or like me, I'm full time. I want you know, just back up the truck and just, you know, just give me a pile of work, man. We'll get through it. So that's me, but that's not everybody. That's for sure. So
yeah.
How are you finding these sellers that you talk to? Do you have a sort of like a podcast where you just invite people on Fiverr sellers and you?
Oh, I've done it before. I used to have a group. I still have a group that I'm not as active anymore. It's called Fiverr Secrets on Facebook. And people want to go over there, they can. And it's just a community where we just share information and stuff. But I used to be hitting this pretty hard. I used to sign people up for meetings, for Zoom meetings and, you know, things like this here. Where I would go over and give people, but I've stopped doing that. I just can't keep up with it. And I got to the point where, I mean, for me, it was like, if you really did well in training, you'd have to choose. I think if you're kicking butt with training and you love training and you love coaching, you don't mind selling, you have to be a sales type person in order to recruit people in to what you're doing. Then you just kind of focus on that, and then you just kind of put whatever you're doing on Fiverr or else on the side, and you're not doing as much work. But I'm just a workhorse, man. I like working, so I just kind of chose that. But I just kind of put that to the side. So I mean, Fiverr Secrets is, you can find it on Facebook, and if you want to join, you know, just click on it and whatever. But and then we just shared, you know, we have a couple of people that post a lot, and I post every now and then. Sometimes I'll do a video if I have something to say, but I don't do it as much anymore. I've kind of really just kind of scaled back that. But that was a big thing for me at one point in time. But like I said, I think, you know, to be honest with you, if you're doing training, you're going to make more money on Fiverr than you ever will on training. I just think that's the nature of the beast. That's the nature of the business. And you're going to work a whole lot less because you're skilled in your niche. You know, that's the big part, is being skilled in what you do. The people that have zero skills and they just want to go on Fiverr to make money, and they come up with, I don't know if you could find this on YouTube. Hey, I made $5,000 and I was selling people some spreadsheet to do something. And that's nonsense. People want real, you know, they want real pros, you know, in their
they
field.
want value. They want value to the
quality,
business, to the personal needs. They want some kind of value, and I think that goes for Fiverr, on Fiverr and offline as well. I mean, if you have skills, if you have marketable skills, then you're gonna make money from it. If you don't have the skills, then I don't think you should be selling on Fiverr.
Right, and you know, the thing is too, I think Fiverr really stretches you as a professional. I don't know if I mean, number one, I think it stretches you as far as dealing with customers and how to deal with customers. Sure. And there's a difference between one-on-one and messaging. Messaging is I think the worst way to deal with sending you an email, asking you about prices, and them expecting them to order or whatnot.
You have a great voice, though. We don't have a great voice, so we prefer
Oh, they don't
message.
matter. It's all comes with the skill, man. I mean, it's funny
Yeah,
because I'm just like one cog in the wheel for a lot of projects. I mean, I'm usually sent to a video editor, and they're they're in their whole universe, and they got what they got going on. So, but yeah, just another cog in the wheel, but for projects. But it's interesting that I mean, it definitely does stretch you
yeah.
to deal with customers. And I think some of the features on Fiverr have been helpful for people that are working their way up. And one of the things that is that
For
is
example,
they're
yeah.
making it more accessible for you to jump on a video call with them, where
Yeah, now
there's
it's
a little
easier. Yeah.
icon in the now Fiverr likes being Big Brother. They like watching every move you do. So when I first found out that video call, they're gonna keep it on file for like the KGB or something, right? They're gonna
The
keep that
recordings, yeah.
video on file for 3 months, and they could review it, and if you say something, and they all the captions show up and everything. So it's very much Big Brother, and they like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I've had people get on a video conference with me, and they'll be like, "Hey, can I just email you for a project?" And then I have
Mhm.
to be the one that says, "Well, you know what?
Oops.
Fiverr's monitoring this right now, so I don't think so, right?" But 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 the good thing about that video conference is you could talk to somebody one on one. Now, one of the things I do, because I found that in order to get orders when people message you, for me, this is what I've kind of honed in doing. I think the you want to get the order as soon as possible. You don't want this long drawn out. You want to be friendly enough so you don't sound like a robot. Okay. And sometimes it's just like a phrase like, "Hey, thanks for messaging me. I appreciate that." Or, "Hey, hey, your book sounds very interesting that I want you to narrate," or, "Your project sounds, find a little something in the project. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's great," or whatever, but then really get to the meat of it. When people send me "Hey, how much will you narrate for 10,000 words? How much will you narrate for 20,000 words?" What I will do, I will message them. "I will narrate this book for X amount of money. If that works, here is a custom order." And you put the custom order. So they're going to click right away. But now there
Mhm.
was one author I found that he wanted to have more conversation. He had a whole bunch of questions. So what I did, instead of trying to type out and answer those, because I hate doing that,
Automated response.
I clicked on that video icon. I clicked on
Uh,
that video icon. We immediately had a conversation. I was able to answer any question he had. It was a relaxed kind of environment. It was one-on-one. I was able to see his video. He was able to see mine. And that right there just kind of, hey, I'm the guy. He doesn't have any other choice. He's not looking anymore because I made the initiative to actually be a real person to contact versus some gig he saw, on with on online somewhere. You know what I mean? So I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it was a nice personal touch, but I just think the
Like
communication, um,
personalized.
it's always better one on one, and I think that's why you people in the community, if you're working, if you're a business, the brick and mortar business in the community, you're always dealing with people, always calling and always talking. That's the best way to go. But sometimes it's very difficult to do. But that was a one feature on Fiverr that I just think was awesome. Was that little video chat that you're able to maneuver with your
Yep.
buyers.
Yep. By the way, how much time did it take to get your first order? Like, but I'm curious about the platform back
Forever,
in 2016. I started
forever.
in
I think
2020.
I think with the very first order, I had somebody say, "Hey, set this up, your profile this way, do this, do that," and then I'm sitting around, nothing's happening. And then
For like a year or something. How much?
what's that?
For like a year or something. How
It
much do you
was
think?
it was at least 2 to 3 months. But then the guy said, "You look," he says, "Fiverr says you shouldn't do this, but most people have to." And it's just like, get some dummy orders, get friends and families, get whatever, to
Mm,
give them $5 to. And that was kind of now I know people that do that full time on Fiverr and they get dinged for because Fiverr recognizes that and they boot their platform. But I mean, it
yeah.
was like something I had to do. Um, you know, I just had to get some family and friends, maybe 4 or 5 people. I said, here's $5. Leave me a review. Mark it complete. Give me a 5-star review. And then, but that really got me noticed. And I think my first order was just some kind of impression of some kind of character impression. It was for $5. Um, and then from there I was doing $5 and $10 orders. And then it moved up. It moved up slowly but surely.
Yeah, same like me.
And I think, you know, I did $5 and $10 orders and small stuff. Now here's something that's interesting is that, you know, during my journey on Fiverr, it was back in 22, I got COVID real bad. I was in the hospital for about a week and a half,
Really?
and I forgot to put and I just wasn't in my right mind.
You didn't put it
at all
unavailable?
with that Fiverr, with that COVID fog or whatever. And I didn't put my gig on vacation mode.
On vacation mode, yeah.
And so I had orders while I was in the hospital, and I couldn't keep up with them. I was canceling orders. I was there's a point in time I was in and out of the hospital, and it was all kinds of problems. And so Fiverr, they told me this. My success seller told me this. They said there was a period of time where it didn't matter what I did, I wasn't getting noticed, and that was like a 6-month period of not getting noticed. So for me, I had to, instead of relying on being on the front page like before, I had to find whatever work I could. So I got together with sellers. We were doing $5 orders nonstop, little $10 nothings, and we would group. I mean, and I was doing that. I mean, I don't know if you've ever done like $1,000 to $2,000 worth of $5 orders, but boy, that's a ton of work. And that's about as much as I could possibly make, but that's a ton of work. But I had to dig myself out of that hole. Then finally, the veil lifted and I got back to where I'm supposed to be. But that was a long period of time that Fiverr was just not giving me, because of that 1 or week and a half period of not putting it on vacation mode and not being able. I mean, I was canceling orders. I wasn't getting them done. I was, a whole bunch of cancellations that affected me in a big way. So
yeah, they really don't like people getting refunded their money once they put it in the platform.
Yeah,
because they may not use it again, because they may not use the platform again. So yeah, we had our fair share of cancellations, Nicolas. But it wasn't like you said, in a sustained period of time in consecutive orders and stuff.
Right.
Did you get demoted when all this happened? Did you get demoted?
No, that's the funny thing. I was top rated. I still was top rated seller. I didn't get demoted, but I kind of like, but I couldn't rank to save my life. I couldn't rank on the front page of anything, any search results. It was just like, it was just like I was being squashed, and you could tell. I mean, there was just nothing. I mean, month after month, nothing showing up, no orders. And like I said, I mean, I would go out and I would go find people that were doing little YouTube channels or 2D or 3D animation stuff that did work with me before, and I try to get on with them, and I'd be pleading and begging to do some work, and man, I was just grinding it. I was grinding that sucker like nobody's business, to just scrape by with a little bit of money. But it was rough, man. I just but eventually the veil lifted, and I think if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have resurrected. I mean, I resurrected from the dead, basically. So
yeah.
Literally and
figuratively right now, so it must have been rewarding for sure.
Yeah.
You do come up as Fiverr's choice. I'm serious. I did seriously come up as Fiverr's choice.
Well, here's an interesting little tip that I think that's important. Let me just get on, and maybe you can translate this to your own gigs if somebody's watching that's not a voiceover person, and they're dealing with something, is that you are better off getting short little orders and turning them over quickly. Okay. And at least I would say in my particular niche, $100 is kind of the sweet spot, I think.
Right.
$100 order.
For me, actually.
And that has been a result of one guy over the last couple of months that just gives me order after order after. I mean, I'll get 3 or 4 in a week. He spent a whole bunch of money with me, but I mean, order after order, small little orders, turning it over in that gig. Because usually the audiobook gig is one of these things where you know, an audiobook's a big project.
Yeah, yeah.
You're gonna take 2 weeks to
Lots
get
of
it
pages.
finished. And then
Yeah.
the other part of it too that's kind of a mess is if you're dealing with depends on who's on the other end. If it's a third party person, sometimes a third party person is not going to mark you complete and give you a review until their client has approved it and gone. But you know, it doesn't matter how much you communicate to these people that you're dealing with on Fiverr on the other end that,
That's
hey, this is
challenging.
the relationship between me and you. This has nothing to do with your, you know, this is the experience that I've had between me and you. This has nothing to do with your client of getting it approved or not. And it's just like, you know, I mean, there's one guy that never leaves me a review.
I got the
And he
same. I
never
got
marks it
multiple of
complete,
them.
but he's worked with, you know, but I still work with him and I still do his order, but it's because it's this long drawn out period. So the thing is that when the order is complete, it could be a 2-week period. It's a long time, you know, a 2-week or a 3-week period, even more.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they leave a review, you know, they mark it complete, leave it a review, and that right there triggers you to move up. Now, the
Yep.
problem is all these audiobook sellers, they're all kind of on the same level and the same page. And I mean, my success seller told me, he said, hey, all those people, the people are on page 3 are making just as much as the people on page 1. There's no difference because there's nothing separated. So what happened with a couple of clients that do these really quick, small, little orders, turn it over quickly. I get it done within 2 or 3 days tops. If I can find them and I can get them on that gig, then all of a sudden you're Fiverr's choice because people are coming to you left and right, right? All they see is the review. All they see is the order
Yeah.
complete. All they see is another $100 has come in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think that's
That's a
helped
good
me
point.
maintain on the front page. They give me a Fiverr's choice. They've also given me you know, the top line of that page, which is you know, this buyer has, I'm sorry, this seller has lots of repeat buyers. So I find out that little trick there in order to stay on that front page, because when I didn't have a client like that, I could be on the front page one day, next day I'm not. Third page, promoted gigs kicks in. I love promoted gigs. Promoted gigs kind of helps you when things go slow. I mean, it really does. And I think a lot of, you know,
This
I
is
find a
what,
lot of impatient people as Fiverr sellers that don't want to try new things on Fiverr. And one of the new things I would recommend people try is promoted gigs, because promoted
yeah.
gigs, what you do is you set it up, you leave it alone, you don't think about it. What happens is I'll run into people that say, well, I set it up and I waited a week and nothing happened, so I'm getting rid of it because I'm not spending 50 cents or $1 or whatever. You know, it's just like, I just set it, I let it go and forget it. And then month after month, it rewards me with an order that wouldn't have come in by any other means. Um, and it kind of evens out the month, and it's a small charge at the end compared to everything else. So, but anyway,
Yep. You talked about a success manager or something. Are you talking about Seller Plus? Do you have the same
yes,
platform?
yeah, I have one of the, I think I found that people that don't like Seller Plus people are people that want there's a lot of people like this. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the nature of social media, but there's certain sellers that want their hand held all the time, and they want to address every little tiny tinky dinky problem that's out there. But I have found that with Seller Plus, I think the biggest thing that's been a huge help with Seller Plus is I get on with my Seller Plus coach with this new transition that they're coming up for the March 15th. They warned everybody else on their phone, people all freaking out about dropping from their, you know, top rated
The
seller
levels, yeah, yeah,
status and
yeah,
whatnot. And so I got with her and I just kind of explained things. She explained everything about what's going on. It was very helpful. And there have been times where, all right, maybe now is a good time to connect with my Seller Plus coach to see if there's any gigs that I can improve on. What gigs are really working well? Are there anybody giving me the private feedback? I'm not a big fan of. I don't think any sellers are a fan of the
yeah.
private feedback. Well, tell us what you really think about this jerk. That's, you know, that's your seller, right? But I mean, I'm not a big fan of that. But you know, sometimes you got to dig and find out, okay, what's going on with this gig? Is there's something? Then all of a sudden, you just like, if you look at a gig and there was one gig in particular that there was just this buyer that was just kind of, I don't know what the deal is with him. He was just a grumpy. I don't know what he was, but I kind of blocked him. I got rid of him, but I knew he was leaving these little nasty internal reviews to me, and I just knew who that was. So I'm glad I got rid of the guy. But I mean, I think the Seller Plus is just kind of like a general macro view type of situation. You want to find out, and you don't need. It's not somebody that you got to call up and badger and email every single time. But I think there's been some things that have come up. I think the big thing is this. I think don't let. I think I'm very happy that there was such a big amount of pushback on this new review system that they came up with about talking about moving people from 5 stars to 4.9 or 4.98 or 4.9, which was ridiculous. And it's just like these were, like I said, these were decision makers that were not sellers on the platform, and they weren't top-rated sellers on the platform. Okay, they have zero experience. So, but they're making the rules for all of us. Who are these people? So I think there's too much tinkering going on at Fiverr to some extent. But I think I think for my thought process is that for Seller Plus people, I always thought that they were a really good balance between customer service. I think when you first started out, and I'll say this about customer service in a positive light, they have improved greatly than when I first started out. When I first started out, if somebody showed up and ordered from you, and then like 5 minutes later said, "Yeah, I'm going to cancel this because I ordered by mistake," that would count against you. And it didn't matter if you went to customer service or not. You were going to have that. And if 5 people, and if the same damn person came back and did it 5 or 6 times, which has happened before, right? They they don't know what they're doing. I don't know what, that was going to count against you. Or, you were just kind of, there was just like no wiggle room whatsoever. But I think what happened is that when the Seller Plus person came along, they were kind of like the go-between. They would override customer service all the time. Customer service wouldn't let you get to the next level. But sometimes customer service say, "Hey, you know what? I mean, the Seller Plus says, hey, this guy's doing a lot of right things here. He's got his average selling price is up at level 2. He's bringing in X amount of dollars a month in his category." And what they would do is they'd go to the customer service. "Yeah, let's move him up to top rated seller." Yep. I mean, they would have to do that because customer service was so regulated in their rules. But what I've noticed now though, so that has actually played a big part in actually bending customer service a little bit more to sellers' wills, I believe. Because now, if you have a cancellation and somebody pulls something where they order and they cancel 5 minutes later, or if you get an order you're not comfortable doing, okay, I try to avoid sexual content or whatever, because I don't want my voice associated with it. I don't want my mama looking for getting on audible.com and hear, "Will, why did you do this awful book about all these sex?" Because she'll do something like that, right? And I'm always afraid of that. Maybe you guys are too. I don't know. But the thing is that, I don't want my voice associated with this. I just want to do regular projects. I don't want to do if people want to do that, knock themselves out, right? But but if they do something you don't want to do, and I brought to the customer service to say, "Hey, that's not going to count against you either." So that has been a huge step in the right direction, in my opinion. Well, a little bit more flexibility. So something's going on. I'm not sure what is going on, but I even think this whole review process, I think they allowed them to do this review process. But somebody stepped in and said, "No, this isn't going to happen. We're going to restore all these people that have been on the platform, that they're the ones that are making Fiverr money. We're making the most amount of money as top-rated sellers, okay? And every 20% goes to Fiverr, no matter who you are. They're the ones making us the big bucks. You're not going to do this." And which was awesome, which is like, wow. So I think a lot has changed. I think there was a point in time where, boy, and I remember this too, you had to have a specific type of gig. You get no warning. I don't know what it was. I had one gig in particular that I had about 100 orders on, or 100 reviews. Okay. And it was kicking butt. It was ranking on the front page. Then all of a sudden I got a little alert from Fiverr saying, well, you're going to have to change this gig or something. So I tried to change it out. And then they come back and they said, well, this gig isn't fixed, whatever you did. And I don't know what I did. I don't know what they're asking me to do. And then they just said, well, okay, we're going to delete your gig. Oh, okay. So all this work that I've done to get myself on the front page after hundreds of orders, right? I just have to start all over again. Oh, okay. So that's, which totally destroys your process, right? You lose money. But you would get stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I just think, I mean, what I found out too, Seller Plus coaches were available to a limited amount of people. And they were usually, top rated sellers or certain, or the creme de la creme of the top rated sellers. I don't know. But now they're available to a whole lot more people on all kinds of different levels. And it seems like they're making, it's profitable for Fiverr that they have enough of them. But I think they're the kings of the castles. I don't think customer service is, but I don't know if you want to discuss that squabble between customer service and us or not. But anyway.
No. I've had that happen to me as well. The when you had to fix your gig and they said they would delete. It was a few months ago, and it was something about the description or something about the category of the gig, and they were saying, "Oh, it's not fixed." And I had the same message that we're gonna delete your gig. It was pretty weird, to be honest.
Well, I think when that happens, I think you've got to stop now this is what I do. I don't try to fix it. I go right to my seller success. And there was something like that actually not too long ago. I can't remember what it was, but there was something that they were telling me I need to do. And it may have been a new gig or something, but I stopped everything. I went right to seller success and I said, hey, what's going on? I sent them an email, sent them a copy. I put in a customer service order or something, and they fixed it. And and they tell me what happened. And so I didn't get it deleted. When there was no success coaches before, you had to figure all this stuff on your own.
Yeah.
And if you got it wrong, bye-bye.
Right? Shit. So Will, you almost have 2,000 reviews here.
Yeah.
So for young people who want to be specifically voice actors for audiobooks or cartoons, what tips do you have specifically for your niche?
I think you have to have some level of expertise to be successful. And I because this is what I ran into coaching. There would be people that they would say, hey, my gig's not working. I can't get to the next level. I don't get any orders. And I didn't want to tell them the truth. And just listening to them, hearing them, they were at a certain stage, they were beginners. And they didn't want to admit they were beginners. And they weren't pros at what they were doing, or they're able to do it. Now, I've seen people that are, when I had clients that were pros, I said, listen, man, your voice is awesome. And plus you have all this experience and you've had all this acting experience, voice acting experience before. And I would say, but listen, this is going to be a short period of time while you're on Fiverr. You're going to get $5 orders. Okay.
Yeah.
Just live with it.
Price.
But it's going to take off. As soon as you start getting X amount of orders, or you go to the next level, especially if you go to the next level right away, if you're level 2, you boost the price. I know one guy in particular, he followed exactly that. He got mad. He'd get mad at he called me on the phone. What is all that? I don't want to do this crap. What? Blah, 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 blah. And then I said, just hang in there, man. This is just a short little season. This is just to get you noticed on Fiverr. I think too, there's, and then he just took off. And then he's a huge top-rated seller. He makes more money than me because he's super, super qualified and good at what he does. But I think there's some level, some standard that you have to have, that you have to feel like, hey, I'm qualified in this. Okay, I'm able to do this. I'm a professional on some level. But I think too, I think the best advice I can give to people is that this is a long process. This isn't going to happen overnight. This might not. No, if you feel, number one, you're qualified. Okay. Number two, you're patient. If you're not patient, this isn't, and we're in a world where people want instant gratification. They want to make money, and especially with money, they want to make money today. All right. They want instant gratification now. That's not going to happen. You could be in the wilderness for. I mean, I remember there was, and I'd be commiserating with a whole bunch of other people. Man, I'm not getting any orders. I don't got no orders this month. I got 3 or 4 orders this week. I don't got nothing, right? And it might be a period of time where you just got to figure that out and figure out how to get better and what to do next. And I think the other third thing is too is take advantage of social media. Social media is a knowledge, follow Lambros here on Twitter. That's how I found him, right? Or find some, this. And the other thing is too, on Facebook, there's, Twitter's okay. But Facebook, man, there's just so many groups you can join, so many Fiverr type groups, and especially I would even say, ones that deal with your industry. You'll find so many, I find so many people that deal specifically with my industry. Get in groups like that you're going to be able to learn things. Every day is a learning curve. Nobody's arrived. Everybody's learning. And there's always going to be somebody more experienced and better than you at what you're doing in your field. There always is. And just learn from them. Don't get jealous of them. Don't get envious of them. Learn from them. Learn everything you can. And I think my journey has been, especially steadying up and rely. Sometimes microphones I don't know anything about. Okay, even being in radio for 20 years, being behind a microphone, I don't know the ins and outs of the equipment. Okay, even with how to narrate properly. In radio, you get behind a microphone and you yell and scream. Behind music. That's something very different when it comes to voice acting and doing things. Just kind of soak it up, learn as much as you possibly can. And then just brace yourself for, hey, this is going to be a long journey. We'll see where this goes. 2016, I wasn't making any money to go full time. It took me a while. It took me a couple years to just really build myself up and then get to the point. I probably should have left my job sooner because I was fighting, I was kind of fighting between the two of the full-time job and this. And I had to choose something, and I eventually chose this. I'm glad I did. But just enjoy the ride. It's going to be a long, nice ride. And if you're not making a ton of money right now, don't worry about it. Keep going. Keep at it. Keep learning and keep growing. You'll get there. So
it's about maximizing the long-term benefits of everything instead of maximizing the short-term.
Yes.
Like Nicolas said earlier as well, like I'm going to get a $10 extra order right now instead of just getting the 5-star review, raking in the 5-star reviews, scrolling up on the search results, being on the good side of Fiverr and the algorithm, stuff like that, and then maximizing for the long term.
Right.
Damn.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. That's great value from you, Will. Thank you for that. Just a last thing before we get you out.
All right.
I want your last thoughts, closing thoughts. But if you want to, give them in a Donald Trump voice. If you want to.
All right. Let me tell you, I'm going to win anyway. You don't need your votes. I don't need anybody's votes. It's going to be a beautiful thing. Fiverr is beautiful. You know why it's beautiful? Because I said it was beautiful. If I never said Fiverr was beautiful, it would be the worst thing in the world, be the worst platform in the world. You would all be losers. You are all winners on Fiverr because of me. Because I beat Crooked Hillary is the reason why Fiverr is great. I know it's based in Israel, and I love Israel and all that. But let me tell you this. It's because of me. I'm the reason Fiverr's great. Everybody loves Fiverr because of Donald Trump. Donald J. Trump. Anyway, there you go.
I love
Later.
That was amazing. That was amazing. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah, man. Wow.
That was amazing, man. What an impression. Well,
I'll tell you one little story. It's funny. And maybe this went against Fiverr's rules, but I don't care. When I first started Fiverr, I played around. I did a bunch of little Donald Trump stuff that got me up the ranks doing his especially when he became president. And actually, I didn't even really start impersonating Donald Trump until I realized it was trending on Fiverr. The impersonations were there on Fiverr. That's where I said, okay, I got to figure out this, because I've been doing impersonations my whole life as a kid and different things. But I found that out, and I started doing little orders. I got some message from some guy with a lot of money in Austin, Texas. and he says, "Hey, I found you on Fiverr, but I'd really like to talk to you." I said, "Oh, I can't do it on Fiverr." I said, "Look, why don't you just let me call you, and I think you'll be interested." So I kind of Fiverr didn't find out, but I called him, and he says, "Hey, why don't you come down to Austin? I'll pay your plane ticket, and we can talk about this project I wanted you to do with this Trump voice, right?"
Up.
And so I'm like, "Wow, okay." And I was found on Fiverr. So I looked this guy up, and he was a big CEO of some big tech company or something like that. Then he retired, and he's got a bunch of money to spend. So we talked about this little app he was going to put together. And then I came home and I didn't hear nothing about it. All of a sudden he said, "Okay, let's get this going." And he had me doing these Trump voices on this app. It's no longer in existence anymore. It only lasted for a little bit of time, maybe a couple months. But I just made a ton of cash. But it wasn't even through Fiverr. I mean, I was noticed on Fiverr. But that was just like, man, this platform has the
It's
ability
powerful.
to get you noticed that you would never get noticed anywhere else ever. And you're able to get orders that you would if you tried to get the orders that you got on your own, okay, through your own efforts, that without any Fiverr platform, you'd never get them. You'd never
I
get
agree.
them,
I
right?
agree.
You would have
I
to.
agree.
I mean, I don't know where these people come from, but they see you, right? And they order from you, and I'm like, all right, great. So
Yeah, I agree with this, and I see people complaining about the 20% commission, and I say to them, okay, you just leave Fiverr and do it on your own. We'll see. Yeah,
right,
You have to
because
pay
you got
for
to
the
understand
website,
something
for
that
the marketing.
yep, the market. What Lambros just said is that they're marketing for you. They're working for you. And all these people I hear that complaint a lot from people who are not on Fiverr that are
yes,
in the professional industry. Oh, they take all this money. Well, guess what? If you had an agent, your agent would be taking 20% as well. And a lot of people have these agents too. So they're taking, so how is that any different, really? And Fiverr's probably doing more for you than that stupid agent ever was.
yeah. Is website advertising, everything,
Yeah,
everything.
absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah. So,
It's actually it could be a lot cheaper, actually, a lot cheaper,
right.
rather than doing it on your own, for sure. Um, well,
That
Will,
was
this
great.
was wonderful.
Yeah, that
Hey,
was
I
amazing,
enjoyed
man.
it. I
Thank you
enjoyed
very
it
That
a
was
much.
lot.
amazing.
Uh,
Hopefully,
I
we'll
think
get it again another time.
Okay, cool.
we should tell
Cool.
the
Well, just
audience
let
if
me
they
know.
have any questions to drop them down below in the comments and stuff, and if they have any questions or even suggestions for this, then we can jump on another call and do this again. Um, what else?
Yeah.
Nicolas, any other closing statements that you want to share?
No, I love this, man. Yeah, Will. Yeah, man. You're good. You know what you're talking about, and we're in line with many things. So yeah, I agreed with everything you said mostly. So yeah, yeah, this
Well,
was
it's
great,
great
man.
talking to sellers who've been on it for a long time. I think, and who've had a journey themselves.
Yeah.
And
When
because
you're talking about your journey, about your job, your 9 to 5, it was very relatable to me because that's what I'm doing pretty much. So
yeah,
yeah, very relatable to me. Yeah.
but I'm going to tell you something though. One of the hardest things that I did was leave my 9 to 5 job, and I think there was a lot of things going on. My wife, very much not the entrepreneur type, very much the 9 to 5 mindset. She did not want me to leave this job. Um, and it took a lot for that to happen, because you're so dependent on it and you've done it your whole life, right? And you worry. But guess what? I mean, I think that if you are a true entrepreneur and you feel like you're not going to make it, I mean, you can make it. I think you can make it, especially if you've seen success already, especially if you've made X amount of money. You've already proved yourself. You've already
Yep.
proved yourself with what you're doing. But I think the hardest thing for people to do, and I think there's people that are working full time and this, where they feel like they have to make a choice. But look, if your job is very tied into what you're doing and maybe if you love your job, I don't know. I mean, that's the other thing. I hated my job. I hated everything about it. But if maybe it's a good shoe that fits. But if you feel like you need to leave this job eventually, I'd say do it sooner rather than later, because you'll make up for it. You will. You'll succeed. You have what it takes to do it, and you
Yep.
can do it. So,
What does your wife think of your job now?
oh, she loves me. She loves me with
Oh,
all
yeah,
her
I
heart, soul, and
bet, I
mind,
bet.
man. She actually loves a guy that's not angry and contentious about his 9 to 5 anymore. He's
And
a guy
it's the
that's
stigma,
available
right?
all the time to do stuff, and
Yeah.
so
And you're some people are afraid to leave the 9 to 5 because of the stigma. Is because you think of it 9 to 5 of more like a safe job, like a reliable job.
Mm.
I think that's why. Would you
but see,
agree?
the truth is though is that they're not reliable.
Yeah, I
You know,
agree. Yeah.
and the other thing is especially radio. Radio is an industry that's dying.
Yeah,
Radio,
yeah,
radio,
Sure.
because of technology, and also just people aren't listening to radio anymore. I mean, it's funny
I
because when I
haven't
was in
in
radio,
years.
people would call all the time, right? They'd pick up the phone and call, and then all of a sudden you get to 2000, I don't know, 2010, 12, 13, people stop calling, because it's technology is changing, everything's changing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's and radio's changing. It's a dying industry. They're not making money. Shoot, I mean, the truth is, you could probably your business is more successful on Facebook than it ever was on radio to begin with.
yeah.
I mean, and everybody would rely on radio commercials and stuff to get the word out locally. But it's just like if your Facebook page could do probably 100 times more, if truth be known, right? as a business than anything radio could do. So yeah, I think that's too. It's just I think it's a fear. I mean, you've got to really evaluate yourself. And I think if you've proven yourself, okay, and you've proven yourself you can do it. If you feel like you haven't proven yourself and you have something tangible, hey, I'm not making enough money to move on, then don't. Okay, until you improve, you feel like you need to improve things before you take that leap. But if it's there, and you're just coming up with lame excuses of
Yeah, yeah.
really keeping your job, and your job's not making what you need it to make, you got to cut the cord, man. Do it. Don't worry about it. Just do it.
100%, man.
No.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. Great message. Yeah. All right. Nice, man. We appreciate your time, by the way. Thank you for.
Hey,
for
thank
taking
you.
a
I
quick
appreciate it.
call.
I had fun.
Oh yeah. Hey, we'll do it again sometime. Yeah, we'll be in touch.